Well, like you, I sit here a few days after the Nebraska versus Michigan game, and I have more concerns about this offensive line after that game than ever before. This is year 4 going into, we're a third of the way through, a quarter of the way through year 4 of Donovan Raiola as the offensive line coach. And before he got here, the tackle position was an issue. And after he's got here, it is still an issue. Now, this group is a mixture, as we know, of his guys that he recruited and guys that were already here, right? He didn't recruit Teddy Prohaska. He didn't recruit Justin Evans, and he didn't recruit Henry Lutovsky. But he did recruit Rocco Spindler, who's by far and away the best offensive lineman of the starting group, of any of them, really. He did recruit Gunnar Gatula, who is coming off his worst performance of his young career, still needing to develop, obviously. He did recruit Elijah Pritchett, who they're paying close to, if not more than, $1 million to play 10 or 15 snaps a game. They knew his issues when they recruited him. We knew his issues. Justin spent countless time talking about what the film says. We knew he was a guy with high potential, but had to put it all together. And we were hoping that this could happen with Coach Raiola. After 4 years, regardless of his guys that he recruited or the guys that were on the team prior to his arrival, it is his group. So I've made the decision to stop labeling, they're not his guys or they're all his guys or whatever, right? It's his offensive line. They are his guys. The development or lack thereof, especially at the tackle position, is a gigantic red flag going into year 4, a quarter of the way through year 4. Granted, Teddy's been hurt a lot, but as terrible as he played on Saturday, how do you not pull him and try Tyler Kanak? Like at that point, you've given up. We'll get into his PFF scores here in a little bit, but he gave up a lot of pressures and sacks. Letting someone continue to fail like that without trying something different is awful, is the way I'll put it. It is irresponsible, is the way I can put it as well. Same thing with Gunnar Gatula. Now, the 2024 and 2025 recruiting classes, you're starting to see more with the 24s than the 25s, obviously, because they just got here. You're starting to see some of those guys make their way up the depth chart. Prior to his injury, Gibson Pyle was running 2s at right guard behind Rocco Spindler. Houston Kahania Torres, class of 2025, is working his way up at center. I believe he's 3rd string, and he's also a swing guy at the guard spots. Preston Taumua, I believe, is 2nd string, borderline 2nd string at the guard spots. Grant Bricks as well is 2nd string, kind of a swing player like Turner Corcoran. You're seeing some of those higher end recruits make their way up the depth chart. But at the end of the day, the development or lack thereof is a concern. He's had time with Gunnar. He's had time with Justin, Henry, and Teddy. And they are not developing at an efficient enough rate for Nebraska to have a decent chance to make a run at the playoffs or even a conference championship. 8-9 wins is very reasonable. You don't have a single all-conference offensive lineman, except maybe Rocco Spindler, who could get maybe 3rd team, could get honorable mention. And he came from Notre Dame, played for the national title a year ago. They lost, but they played for it. Hell of an accomplishment. His development does not go on Coach Raiola. His development goes on his previous O-line coach. Now, looking ahead at the 2026 recruiting class, offensive line, it's okay. It's not great. It's a very much a developmental offensive line. Even your top prospect, who's a top 150 recruit, Claude Mapuma, is very much a developmental offensive tackle, left tackle. Okay, very raw, very green, very new to the sport and the position. Was a basketball player originally. He is going to take at least a year, if not more, which I would bank on more, like 2, maybe 3 years to develop and really be a good starting left tackle for you of the future. And what have we seen as a consistent issue? Tackle development, really offensive line development, but particular tackle development. And you have a whole class of developmental players, which is not uncommon on the offensive line. But you would like to be able to get one of those high-end recruits that are more fine-tuned, for lack of a better term. And so with that being said, now we're going to go back a couple of years. Nebraska has been trying for 3 straight years to get the absolute top tackle prospects committed. And they've swung and missed every single time. And by top, I mean these 5-star, the Brandon Bakers of the world. What's the kid from Jackson Cantwell, the kid from Missouri? They tried to get him and missed. It's just been a consistent, we're swinging for the fences and we're not landing our top prospect. And it almost seems like, with the exception of this year, because they were able to get Claude Mapuma, they didn't have like a backup option if they missed or when they missed on their top tackle prospects. 3 years in a row, you've missed. And now they're trying it again in 2027 with the top overall prospect in the entire country, Kennedy Brown from Houston, Texas. He just visited Nebraska for the 2nd time in a handful of months. By all accounts, a phenomenal visit. Can Nebraska, in the class of 2027, with the help of Trey Taylor, obviously, with the hopefulness of getting 8 or 9 wins this season and showing that you're on the right track, can they get their top prospect in Kennedy Brown? Can they pull him away from the home state Texas Longhorns, who appear right now to be the favorites? And if they miss out on him, at least you're seeing some backup options that are still high-level tackles. They're pushing for 5-star offensive tackle Mark Matthews from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Right now, though, seems like a long shot. Outside looking in, there was some early momentum that's been fading over time. 4-star Caden Perry from Bixby, Oklahoma. Again, Nebraska is trying to get one of these top guys on their board. Well, Perry seems to be trending for Oklahoma, obviously in-state school. And then they're also trying to get 4-star Cameron Wagner from the Chicago area. Nebraska swung for him as well. With the help of Trey Taylor, there is that connection there. But right now, it appears that Nebraska's on the outside looking in as well. This is a consistent problem. Players love the culture. Players love the team. They love the coaches. They love the facilities. They love the amenities, the academic support, the nutrition support. They have everything they need. And Nebraska has to do one thing, and that's start winning at minimum. And honestly, you need to start having some draft picks on the offensive line. You need to show you can get this player to the NFL, because right now, if I'm Kennedy Brown, I haven't seen a Nebraska offensive lineman drafted in God knows how long. Why would I go play there? Let's be real. You can't get these top prospects unless you can prove you win consistently, you develop at a high rate consistently, and you're pumping out NFL prospects on the offensive line. Nebraska's not doing any of those right now, unfortunately. Now let's dive in a little bit to the game. So that was a little bit the recruiting side of things, and now let's dive into the game. So again, we thought this would be an improved group. This was a big test for Nebraska. You knew Michigan was going to bring some pressure, and boy, did they. We'll get to that here in just a minute. I think there's one positive on the offensive line from this game. Your interior offensive line is doing fairly well. They are holding up their end of the bargain. There was not a lot of issues on that interior offensive line, other than like 1 or 2 hurries from Henry Latovsky. I believe Henry also had 1 penalty. But Henry's PFF grade for pass block was a 78.8. Justin Evans was an 82.5, and Rocco Spindler's was a 74.9. The average is 60 to 65. All 3 of them were above the average PFF score for pass blocking. That's really good. I think those are impressive grades, if I'm not being, too favorite or too much of a homer here. But run blocking across the board was a shit show. Okay, Henry Lutovsky was your highest graded run blocker at a 60.4. Your offensive tackles may as well have been swinging gates for the entirety of the game. They gave up 7 sacks, 15 hurries, in which Teddy and Turner accounted for 14 of those hurries. Teddy had 8 or gave up 8 hurries. Turner gave up 6. Inexcusable from your tackles. Inexcusable for any offensive lineman to give up 8 hurries in a single game. And then let's add the pressures. Now, the pressures is a little confusing for some people. Pressures, if 2 players get a pressure, it counts as 2, not 1. So when I say Nebraska gave up 36 pressures on 49 dropbacks, keep that into perspective because that's what happened. Nebraska had 49 dropbacks. They gave up 36 pressures. That is inexcusable against a team that you knew was going to blitz. And even at times, they'd show blitz and drop out. And it's like the offensive line didn't know what to do after that. They were getting home with 3 at times. They were getting home with 4 at times. And you got 5 people in there blocking. And I'll add 2. My one complaint is they never left the tight end in to help. They used the running back, which is typically okay. But Emmett was getting blown up in pass blocking all day. His PFF score, I don't have it in front of me right now, was not good in pass pro. So your offensive tackles are getting beat like they stole something. You're offering them no help from your tight ends. The help you are offering from your running back who's getting ran over for 60 minutes. That is a concern. I digress. Nebraska played 4 offensive tackles. They played Teddy. They played Turner. Turner, I believe, played like 10 snaps. They played Gunner, who was the primary starter at left tackle, or more primary player at left tackle. And then they played Elijah Pritchett a little bit. All 4 of them had an average overall PFF score of 40.3. 40.3. Okay. That is a joke. Now, Turner and Pritchett played a combined like 20, maybe 25 snaps. In those snaps, they were unimpressive. In those snaps, primarily Elijah had a penalty, a hurry, and a sack given up. Tyler Kanak, at the start of the year, had an or next to his name at the right tackle spot with Teddy Prohaska. He didn't play a single snap against Michigan, while Teddy gave up, I think, 4 sacks and 8 pressures. There is no way you can tell me that Tyler Kanak did not deserve a chance to prove that he could at least slow down in some capacity that rush, since you weren't going to give your offensive tackles any help with the tight ends. The only help they gave them was on the drive that I believe where Nebraska started inside their own 5, and they had Turner line up as a tight end essentially to do a jumbo formation, and it was running plays. There was no help on the offensive side of the ball from tight ends to help with this pass pro, to help slow down this rush. Nebraska's receivers were better than Michigan's DBs. I think you could have spared a tight end at a time or two to help with the block. A senior-led offensive line, plenty of experience. Gatula's got a year and a quarter under his belt. Henry Lutovsky's been here for 3 or 4 years. Justin Evans has been here for 3 or 4 years. Rocco Spindler's got 4 or 5 years of college football. Teddy, while hurt, has been here for 5 years? And they just got absolutely ran through by Michigan's defense. The term pipeline belongs to the name of to the likes of Rob Zadeka, to Aaron Graham, Will Shields, Zach Weger, Brandon Stye. All of those guys were all Americans. All of those guys played in the NFL. In fact, Will Shields is in the College Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Nebraska's current pipeline doesn't have anyone remotely close, not even the same stratosphere as the likes of the gentleman I just mentioned, the legends of the pipeline. You cannot call yourself the pipeline when you give up 36 pressures on 49 dropbacks and 8 sacks or 7 sacks in a single game. End of story. The development on Nebraska's offensive line needs to be better. It's year 4. We need to see development. There is zero excuses. You supposedly have the NIL. You supposedly have the rev share. You went out and spent money on Rocco. Good investment. You went out and spent money on Elijah Pritchett, which right now is dead money. He's not playing. He's not contributing at a high level. Nebraska tried to get Isaiah World, who ended up at Oregon. Why? Because they win and they put dudes in the NFL. They tried to get Shaez Pete. At the end of the day, SEC was more important for him. Kentucky, while not better than Nebraska, in my opinion, on the offensive line, they've been putting some guys in the NFL more consistently than Nebraska. If you want to compete for championships, hell, even a 12 seed in the playoffs, you need to invest in the offensive line and the defensive line. But that's a conversation for another day.